From the Oklahoma newsroom, this is an OU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here in studio with Ryan Aber, OU beat writer. Ryan, we still are talking about what happened Saturday, and why not? It was historic. It was almost unbelievable. 25-point comeback at Baylor. You were there, saw it with your own eyes, but we've now started to excavate a little bit of the how this happened. There was obviously the on-field stuff, but an important point that you wrote about for the Tuesday Oklahoman and Oklahoman.com was the experience of K-State a couple weeks ago. Yeah, it didn't work out so well, but how did that game play into what we saw Saturday down in Waco?
Well, the fact that they were down by the same margin, 25, it was later in the game when in Manhattan, but they got within a touchdown. They almost made it back. The fact that they were down 25 in the second quarter, they had more time to come back in that game, to play the way that they wanted. They didn't go outside of their game plan a lot like we saw a little bit in Manhattan. But just the belief that that game brought them, the fact that they knew it wasn't impossible to do. Lincoln Riley said right after the game that he felt like in Manhattan about half of the team really believed that they could come back and beat Kansas State and win that game. He said on Saturday it was 100%. Everybody believed it, and that really was the genesis of this comeback.
You know, you wrote about this moment. It happened at halftime, Ryan, between Alex Grinch and Jalen Hurts, two guys that you don't usually think having moments at halftime. But Grinch comes up to Jalen at halftime and says what?
He says, "This is going to be one of those games that we tell our kids about." And Jalen Hurts responds in typical Jalen Hurts fashion and says, "One of many," whether that's looking back or looking ahead. But that moment between really the two central figures of the comeback,
right.
Jalen Hurts was awful in the first half and was phenomenal outside of the one fumble in the second half. He was a driving force behind that comeback. Alex Grinch, his unit has struggled really for 2.5 games, for most of 2.5 games until halftime, and then they were just phenomenal in the second half. Yeah. So to have that coming together, that moment down there at McLean Stadium on Saturday was pretty incredible given the context of when it happened.
Have you, as we've talked about this belief, as I said, it still had to come together on the field. Is there still a part of you that can't believe it actually did? I mean, it's one thing to think, okay, these guys went through something, they nearly got there at K-State. I mean, we stood there watching in disbelief that they were that close at the end, really. But the fact that they got there, is there still a part of you that is sort of about the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I've covered a lot of football games in my career, and that was right up there with the craziest. I think that and the Baker Mayfield Patrick Mahomes game, but you sort of knew what to expect going into that one.
Right.
We didn't expect any of that, both the Baylor jumping ahead and Oklahoma coming back on Saturday night, and that's what makes college football so fun, to have the possibility that something that you've never seen happen. And it certainly did. There's been a lot of great games in Oklahoma history. Never been a comeback quite like that one.
Yeah, probably some words you threw in the trash too as that game changed.
Yeah, a lot of Control A delete in that game.
You never knew what was going to happen. Maybe it'll be a little more subdued on Saturday. Who knows? TCU comes to town. We'll have more on that as the week goes on. So be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at Oklahoman.com and every day in the Oklahoman.